Hello and welcome back to Manila. Behind me, a cobbled street. Where else could I be but the old city of Manila, known as Intramuros, and today I'm going to rent a bike from here, Bambike Eco Tours, and show the old walled city in a slightly different way to what I might normally do in some of my older videos. I've just bought a GoPro, so I'm going to attach it to my chest, and I think that'll be a pretty cool way to showcase things here. To rent a bike, it's 100 pesos for an hour, but if you have a student ID, it's just 50. So I'm going to try and make use of that. I'm going to rent it for a few hours and show you in style this really cool old heritage part of Manila. So I've now picked up my Bambike. I've paid for just the first hour, which is 50 pesos if you have a student ID. And then when you come back, you just pay for how many hours you used it for. I've got my GoPro attached here on the chest mount. So let's switch onto the GoPro and have a little bike around Intramuros. A short journey from Bambike Eco Tours to the sturdy 16th and 17th century wall that goes around the perimeter of Intramuros. You can see here the old buildings behind me in the tight grid system of the old city, and then the high-rise skyscrapers of modern Manila behind me. From the 16th century to 1898, this was the city of Manila, and there are a few very important places inside these walls, one of which is called Fort Santiago, which is the most famous place and possibly the most famous tourist attraction in the whole of Manila. So I'm going to hop back on the Bambike and time warp you guys there now. I'm now here inside the beautiful Fort Santiago. 75 pesos to enter, and if you have a student card that hasn't been given to the Bambike Eco Tours as your deposit, then you'll be able to get in for 50. It's quite peaceful here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the history as I walk through. So once inside, you'll quickly notice that this is quite a dark place for Filipino history. Just behind me there, as you see the cross, that's where 600 bodies are buried. They were found in the dungeons of Fort Santiago at the end of World War II. In 1945, the Japanese used this fort when they were in Manila and imprisoned many Filipinos and also American prisoners of war here. And before that, this fort was used as the Spanish stronghold, and as such, many Filipino revolutionaries were also imprisoned here. And it's mostly important because of Jose Rizal, who this place is sort of dedicated to. You can see his statue as you walk in. He was an incredible person, and he is the Philippines' national hero. During his short life, he managed to speak 22 languages, founded a political movement, wrote 2 novels, was an accomplished poet and essayist, became a doctor, gained recognition as an acclaimed artist, and he was also a fencing and martial arts enthusiast. During his time in exile, he also discovered 2 species of frog and lizard, both named after him, and he also won the lottery. He was incarcerated here before his execution by firing squad in 1896. His peaceful approach made him a martyr after his execution. The Spanish strategically chose to build Fort Santiago right at the entrance to Manila Bay, which is at the foot of the Pasig River, which slices Manila in half. Standing at the edge of Fort Santiago, I could see the district of San Nicolas on the other side of the Pasig River. My camera couldn't quite zoom in close enough as I'd have liked, but you can see children playing basketball in the street, and I really think that sums up the sense of Manila that you get with traffic and densely packed buildings and houses, yet people having fun, smiling, and life going on. After the band bike ride from Fort Santiago, I'm now here at the Baroque San Agustin Church, considered to be the oldest in the Philippines. It's one of 4 UNESCO World Heritage Site churches in the country, and I've heard that if you want to get married here, it's a 2-year waiting list, as so many people want to do it in Intramuros at the oldest church in the Philippines, and hence right now there is a wedding going on and tourists aren't allowed to go inside. So I'm going to take a shot from the outside and show you a bit of the wedding, and you might be able to get some glimpses of the inside, and a bit later on, if the wedding's finished, I might come back and show you in more detail.
Jacqueline, do you take John Paul her present for your lawful husband according to the right of a holy mother in church?
Yes, Father.
Do you give yourself to him as his wife?
Yes, Father.
Do you accept him as your lawful husband?
Yes, Father.
Round the corner from the San Agustin Church is the start of Anda Street, which is behind me. It cuts through the heart of Intramuros and is one of the most picturesque. So I'm going to hop on the bamboo bike and just do a normal video on my GoPro point of view shot to show you how pleasant it is, and then I might turn a few corners afterwards to see if there are any other interesting streets and just go along like that. All the trees with blossom this time of year in early May. You can see the famous old cathedral over there, which I might get to a bit later. But first, forwards. Some nice garden areas here. You'll find these guys all around the city if you fancy sitting down instead of pedaling yourself. Some nice colourful buildings here and Filipino flags. Shall I do him? I'll overtake. Could do with a bell on this thing. Can see the wall at the edge on the east side of the city. Let's take a right and dive into some of the more local areas. Hey. Even in the walled city, you'll find people living and setting up their own businesses here. Hey. Hey. Hey, high five.
High five. Hey,
Hey.
where are you from?
UK.
Okay.
Hi. Yeah, it's a beard. Have you never seen one before?
Kasi man na wag guwapo.
Can you speak English?
No.
Oh, okay. What's this game?
Garter.
Carter.
Garter.
Garter. Okay, okay. Those children were so friendly, and it's very fascinating to see the contrast of the streets in Intramuros of children and people living very modestly right next to these old colonial structures. And I've just dropped off my van bike here. For the extra 2 hours that I used it, it was 50 pesos for each hour, so 100 in total, and that's a really good deal. And it's very conveniently located next to Casa Manila, which is a reproduction of an old Spanish colonial's house, a very affluent one. It's going to be very interesting to go inside and see how these colonial Spanish lived, because the Philippines was a colony of Spain, if you didn't know, from the 16th century to the end of the 19th century, before it then went to the USA after the USA defeated the Spanish. So nearly 300 years of history, 300 years of rule from the Spanish. There are so many influences in this country from their time. And now I'm going to head inside and let's take a look at how the Spanish lived here inside the walled city. Now inside Casa Manila, 75 pesos to enter, 50 if you have student ID like me. Not something you see every day. A double toilet. View from the house of the street below. Back out into the courtyard. Finished looking in Casa Manila, the house just there, and now very conveniently, just outside of it is the Baroque San Agustin Church, which I'm about to go back and check to see if the wedding's over and I'm allowed to go inside. Good news, the wedding is over. Pretty impressive. Reminds me of a few Catholic churches in the Baroque style that I visited in Malta. Hey. Something I discovered today about the Philippines is that there are friendly children everywhere, all over the streets. I'm going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed this tour of Old Manila, Intramuros. I recommend that you rent a bamboo bike. It's a great way to see the streets of the old city and take in its atmosphere. So I'm going to end things here. So I'll see you on the next video. Peace.